My name is Christian Torres, and I'm the founder of Stark Analytics.
Tell us about Stark Analytics.
So we help companies simulate and stress test high-risk decisions before they allocate any capital.
What made you start that particular business?
It actually started with my passion for analytics, for forecasting, quality systems, and I realized that what I was doing professionally as an employee, I could do it for so many other businesses and multiply that impact if I could just help other firms outside of just my employer.
So how long have you been in this business?
Well, this business has only been in operation for about 2 years, but I've been doing this professionally for over 15.
And the name is Stark Analytics.
Yes.
Where did that name come from?
That came from Tony Stark, Iron Man himself.
Iron Man himself. So I assume that you are a Iron Man fan.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So give us an origin story on how all this began.
So one of the things I really love about Iron Man is that he's always thinking about what is the next threat. What's the next thing that he can build a technology or a solution to avoid, to help save people, to do the right thing. My origin story actually started in a cave, very much like his. And I made my share of very, very bad decisions that landed me in a very, very dark place. And I found myself incarcerated. And it was life-changing, but not in the way that it is for most people. Most people go in and they'll find a new trade, or they will come out and just commit themselves to a faith-based organization, or just to live a different kind of life. For me, it had to break me down first before I could discover what I wanted. And I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement, which, if you look at the studies, show has a severe impact on the human brain. A lot of individuals that go through what I went through, they come out and they struggle with anxiety, they struggle with anger issues, they have a high rate of recidivism, they have a high suicide rate. They are just very unstable because they've gone through so much. And that's after just 3 to 6 months of solitary confinement. I was subjected to about 18 months of solitary confinement over a period of time of almost a decade. And during that time, I was forced. Had no other choice but to live inside of my own head. I had to build systems in my own mind. I had to play out what would happen the day that I was released. What is my next chapter? What am I going to do? I didn't have an iPhone. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have the internet. So all I could do was play out these scenarios in my head. And eventually I got really, really comfortable thinking critically, thinking about all the steps and what follows and the consequences of those steps. And so when I finally got a chance to get out of that hole, I got a job at the prison factory, and they set me in front of a computer and they said, we need you to crunch some numbers, do some basic data entry. And they introduced me to Microsoft Excel. And Microsoft Excel, those simple spreadsheets, those things that most people hate and leave to the accountants, that became my creative medium. That became my entryway. That became my portal, my escape. It became everything to me because it was the only place that I could be free to create. And I knew at that moment that that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And it evolved because I started off just like most people, doing a simple formula and doing a little budget and things like that. But then I realized that I could create so much more. And it just continued evolving to the point where nowadays the stuff that I do goes well beyond Excel. Excel is one of the many tools in my toolkit, but it's still part of my origin story because it was the first time that I realized what I was capable of if I just took those same thought processes, those same systems that were in my head, and translated them into something that could help other people make better decisions.
Absolutely. All right, we got a lot to unpack here. All right. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we got systems, computer, Microsoft, prison, solitary confinement, darkness.
Yes.
Okay. Let's work our way backwards. Christian Torres, prison. Take me there. Take me to
What happened? How did I
what
end up in
happened.
there?
How did you end up in jail? Let's say that.
Oh, that's even more interesting. So before that, I was actually a New York City police officer, and I obviously made some very terrible choices. I was actually going to school for forensic psychology. So the human mind, the reasons why people do what they do had always fascinated me. And now I'm the best case study for myself, right? I say I'm uniquely qualified to talk about decision making because I've made some of the worst ones possible. And I look back at why I made those decisions. And I could dial it down just and say, it was because I wanted money. It was because I wanted the adrenaline. It was because I wanted the rush, the power. I wanted to get away with something. You know, as kids, we always want to try to get away with something, want to get one over on mom or dad. And you know what? As we get older, sometimes that temptation is still there. And it's still there in business. How many businesses take shortcuts, right, to make an extra buck? And so it all comes back down to that individual decision making. And that's what landed me there. So I was arrested for bank robbery, which most people, they completely are shocked when I tell them that. They usually assume like, oh, you're a numbers guy. What did you do? Did you, write some bad checks? Did you tax evasion? Were you extorting money, embezzling? They never think that that's what it was. But yeah, that was the terrible decision.
Man, you got some layers.
Yeah.
Okay. Police officer.
Yes.
All right, you're a police officer. When did everything go wrong? How do we go from police officer to bank robbery?
Well, like most things, it's usually one thing breaks first. So you think you have everything figured out. You think you have everything perfectly planned. Life is going great. And then one bad thing happens. In my case, it was something as simple as a breakup. Well, I was living with someone and that didn't work out. So we went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. There comes the financial pressure, which again, I always draw this back to what businesses feel every single day because my story, I translate it. Every time I do a project for somebody, I think back to what I went through and I realize that every business is just a collection of human beings just like me that go through the same exact challenges. I had a bad event happen. I felt financial pressure. I had to figure out how I'm going to make more money. And then an opportunity presented itself, or at least what I thought was an opportunity. And a friend of mine that was actually employed at one of the banks, we got to talking, and next thing you know, we had a plan all figured out. And so we said, we know what we're going to do. We know how we're going to get that money that we so desperately need because everything else was falling apart. And we went through with it, got away with it the first time and the second time. And on the third time, 3 strikes and I was out. And that was the end, but it's really the beginning, right? That's when everything changed because obviously I was no longer going to be able to be a police officer. I sat in the back of that car and I said, well, my life is ruined. Those were literally the words that I said to myself, just very simply. Well, my life is ruined.
So, New York, was it?
Yes.
You were a New York City cop.
Yes.
The bank robbery happen while you were an actual cop? Okay. Off duty.
Yes. It wasn't in my uniform.
Right. So, it's off duty.
Yes.
You and a friend had a plan and got away with it. Mm-hmm. Got away with it twice, got away with it. And the third time, everything went wrong.
Correct.
All right. That's a story in itself. Okay. I'm so fascinated by the bank robbery, and I'm also equally as fascinated with how that translated into business and being a speaker.
Yeah. I can tell you right now that the bank robbery portion of it is the least interesting bit because anybody that is willing to take a chance, has enough problems and motivation, can go and do something stupid. Right. We're all capable of doing something very stupid. That's not the impressive part. What happened to me after the breakdown, because when you're faced with a situation where everything you thought you were going to do, everything you thought you were going to be in life is immediately off the table and you have nobody to blame but yourself. Nobody
Right.
forced me to do that. It wasn't like I grew up in a life of poverty and drugs and crime and I was destined to be this. No, actually, it was quite the opposite. I went to a very nice private school. I had scholarships. I had no reason really to do that. And so when you're forced to really evaluate yourself, your decisions, and you have 100% accountability because there is literally no one else to blame, that's when you really start asking the hard questions. And that's when you start getting inside of your own head. And for some people, that can be a little bit scary. That could be messy. That can be the thing that actually drives you to do more stupid things. For me, I started thinking about how do I play out what happens next. And then through my experiences working with Excel, I was just able to simulate some of those scenarios. So one of the fun things, and a lot of people that are into like stocks will do this, they will take the history of a stock and they'll say, okay, this stock has done this for the last 20 years. And I think that if I have a little formula that says buy when it goes down 2% and sell when it goes up 3%, and they simulate this system, they'll build a numbers game basically, and they'll visualize all the millions of dollars that they'll make in 10 years from now because their system is perfect. I did that. I played around with all the numbers and I started building all these things to forecast things, whether it was inventory, dollars, sales. It doesn't matter what it is. You can quantify those things and then simulate what would happen if this behaves in a certain way, goes up, down, has volatility, and you project that out for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And you can do some pretty interesting things when you start adding layers. And we do that for ourselves as human beings as well, except we do it with our personal finances. Okay, if I have this job and I'm making this much and I save this much a month, and I keep putting it away, or I invest it in the stock market, or I buy a business, or I buy this car, where am I going to be 18 months, 2 years, 3 years from now?
So is that us building like a little algorithm in our head? Is that how we're doing?
Oh, absolutely. So people think that when I operate off my gut. I run my business from my gut. I just know people. You just have a system that you have not codified yet. So you have a system in your head that you have not translated into a process. You have not given it a proper name. You have not defined it. You have that system. It's just living in a place that no one else can access.
Okay, so you do this for companies.
Yes.
So what exactly is your proposition to a company? And what companies do you approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So companies that are in high growth mode, companies that are mature enough to know that they need help, but also not so large that they have an entire team of people thinking about these very things. So I'm not going after, Meta. I'm not going after Alphabet. I'm not going after Microsoft. Those are not my clients. Also, the small mom and pop shop that only has 3 employees, those are probably not my clients either because they do not have the capacity. They're not solving or trying to solve the problems that I can solve. Now, those companies are in the range of about 10 to 75 million roughly. At that point, they've reached a maturity where they know that they need help on very strategic things. They know that they don't have every single skill set on the books as employees, and they know that they don't have the budget to just hire to get every single piece of expertise you can get on the market. So what do? They bring in experts. And usually when I get brought in is when they're trying to decide, should I do this or not? Because we can't afford to be wrong. And one example is a gentleman brought me in. He had built an empire for himself in Florida, and he had multiple locations, and he was faced with a very, very tough choice. He said, I don't know if I should consolidate and shut down some of the poor performing locations and build one mega location, or should I expand? Should I stay the same? I don't know what to do. And I really want to be thoughtful about this. I want to use the data. I want to use the information. Can you help me? And I said, sure, absolutely. I can do this. And so what I did was I went through all his financials. He sent me all his spreadsheets. He sent me all of his documentation. And I looked at it and I said, okay, let's do this through the lens of you, the business owner, because I'm not the one making the decision. I don't have to live with it. I'm not the one that has to pay the salaries of your employees. I'm not the one that has to tell them that they won't be getting a paycheck next week. So let's first put this through a lens of what are your priorities? What matters to you? Do you care more about preserving your current revenue, or do you care more about reducing operational complexity? Because if you're trying to make it less complex, sure, shut them all down. Make one big shop, you have less places to run. That's the extreme. If you don't care about that and you just want to make sure that you don't lose a single customer, you don't want to shut down any locations. And so you have to really figure out what is your priority. And that's why when we talk about data-driven decisions, you hear that a lot. Everybody talks about data-driven decisions. That's backwards. That is backwards. And I will tell you right now, if you start with the data and then try to make decisions off of the data that you have, you're going to make bad choices. Instead, flip it around. First begin with what are the decisions that you have to make, and then figure out how to get the data that you need to make the best decision. Don't just go with what you have. Take the time and intentionally think through what do you have to collect, what do you already have, what does that tell you, and is that enough for you to make the decision that actually matters in your business?
What is the revenue range of the someone that would hire you?
Typically somewhere between $10 to $75 million a year.
Okay.
Now, I work with smaller companies, don't get me wrong. If somebody comes to me, needs help, and I know I can do it, I'm not going to turn them down if I have the capacity. Now, there's sometimes if I have a lot of large projects, I can't take on those smaller projects. I have to make sure that I'm staying with my strengths, I'm staying kind of in my lane and pursuing the people that I know I can help the most. But every company is faced with decisions. Every company generates data. I was just talking to a gentleman who has a video editing company. He does, videography. He goes out and helps companies with it. And I said, this is what I do. Explained to him, short version. And he said, I don't really use spreadsheets. I don't have a lot of data. I said, okay, you have customers? He said, yeah. I said, do you have bookings? Yeah. Do you have a calendar? Yeah. Do you have an accounting system? Yeah. Okay. Every single one of those is a data point. Now, those systems that you have probably don't talk to each other. You have a CRM, you have your accounting software, you have a booking software, you have places where you store all your files. All those things do not speak to each other. Now, what if you have to make a decision on whether to say yes or no to a big project or another big project, or whether or not you should even stay in business? Or if somebody comes and makes you a really, really good offer and says, hey, forget what you're doing, come partner up with me. How are you going to make that decision if you don't have all the information in one place to actually consider all the factors? Maybe you're going to find yourself needing to project out, what does this look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and then make that decision. But you can only collect the information once you realize, oh, wow, I have data that I can use, and I have this decision that I need to make.
Absolutely. All right, so you do that for businesses.
Yes.
You come in and you kind of arrange not only the data, but the mindset behind how to use the data.
Yes.
How do you find your customers?
Honestly, it's all through professional networking. Most of the people that I work with were either referred to by a former employer, a former colleague, someone that knew what I could do. And that's the tricky part. Most of the people that know me as the Excel guy, right? That's how I carved my teeth. That's where I got my start. And most people knew that I could help them automate processes in Excel. I can build incredible tools. I used to say that if Excel had hands, it would be making my coffee. And that's true. I can do all of those things. But once they brought me on, then the conversation would shift. I'd say, okay, show me your spreadsheet problem. Show me what I can do. Show me what you need in Excel. Why are you asking for this? That'd be my next question. Because they would always ask me, is it possible to insert problem here, insert solution here? Is it possible to automate this? Is it possible that when I click this, it does this? And I would always stop and I said, listen, we're going to be here all day. If you're going to ask me what's possible, 9 out of 10 times, the answer is going to be yes, I can make it do that. With enough of a budget, enough time, I can make it do anything you want to do. You got it. Is that really what you want? Is that what you need? Because I could bill you thousands of dollars to bill you all these fancy automations, and it won't get you any closer to what you actually are after, which is clarity. Clarity on what to do, clarity on what comes next. And so let's forget about the spreadsheet for a second. Let's talk about your whole process. Let's talk about what you're trying to do. Where are you at in your business? And where are you trying to go? And then we'll figure out what dashboard you need, what report you need, what automation you want. Then we'll get into like the technicals of it. But it has to start with prioritizing based on your decisions.
All right. So a lot of times these business owners don't know what problem to try to tackle in the first place. So not only they're confused about, they know they have a problem, but the biggest confusion is knowing how to, I won't say how to tackle that problem, but
How to prioritize.
how to prioritize tackling that problem.
Yeah.
All right. So you say you do speaking also.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
So I attended an event, and I remember this very, very clearly. There was a gentleman on stage. His name was Andrew Cordell, and he speaks on tax architecture. Now, normally that's something that would put a lot of people to sleep. You know, like tax architecture. Oh, I want to hire somebody to do that. I don't want to get excited about that. I'm here to talk about motivation. I'm here to talk about marketing. I'm here to talk about relationship building. This is what I want to hear for, I want to hear about that. And this man got on stage and he had such a passion. He had so much energy talking about tax architecture. He was having fun. He was having the time of his life. I kid you not, this man was on stage, hat backwards, like hoodie on. He had his chain out. He had Jordans on. He was having the time of his life. He looked like a kid on Christmas. And I sat there and I said, wow, he took something that is really technical, nerdy, analytical, and he's just having fun with it. He's at the time of his life sharing his story. He told us about how he got his start. And I said, I want to make people feel the way I feel right now. I want to make people feel that way. And the only way that I'm going to do it is if I go on stage and do way more than just talk about pivot tables or macros and Excel. That's not going to cut it. I need to get to the why. Right? So if you ever listen to Simon Sinek, he says, start with why. People want to know the why. That's what's going to make you different. There are thousands of people out there that are good at Excel, that can build a spreadsheet. Hell, there's people out there that are better than me at Excel. Absolutely, hands down. Why do they do it? I don't know, but I can tell you why I do it. And why I do it, I think it's pretty interesting.
All right. If you could share one message with business owners, what would it be?
I would say, be careful. Right now, we are living in an age where it is so easy to grab the next tool off the shelf. You want this AI tool, we're going to get this LLM, we're going to get this agentic software, we're going to have this platform, we're going to hire this guy who's an AI expert. Listen, I'm sorry, right now, on every block in the city, there's an AI expert. Everybody says they're an AI expert. I use AI every day. Probably 70% of my day is spent using AI in some way, shape, or form. I'm not touting myself as an AI expert, but there's so many people out there that are doing that. It's just like, 8 years ago, I'm a Bitcoin entrepreneur, blockchain this. Everybody was just on it. It's the next thing. And I'm not saying that it's not a revolution. It absolutely is. But do not fall into the trap of thinking that AI is going to solve your problems. AI can't do your thinking for you. AI can help you maybe troubleshoot some things, get to information faster, but that's not what you actually need. Because if you start using AI and you're not clear about what decisions you actually are trying to make, you're going to go in circles. It's going to tell you you're a genius. It's going to tell you, yeah, absolutely, you're thinking about this exactly right, sir. I mean, you've probably done it. You tell ChatGPT, I have this brilliant idea, and it says, that is a great idea. That is wonderful. Where's that going to get you?
Right.
So what you need is somebody that actually has seen this movie play out a couple times and says, hold on a second. Before you start getting all the fancy technology, before you start spending money on getting everybody a ChatGPT license, before you start bringing in some AI engineer, can we just start by talking about where we're trying to go? Because businesses don't realize a lot of what they need to do, a lot of the work, a lot of the high-level analytics that they need don't live in crazy big data sets and in the cloud. You don't need all that. Just start with your priorities, start with what you care about, start with the decision framework, and then work backwards from there. And honestly, I have not met a company yet that I could not help with tools that they already own, whether it's in the Google suite, Microsoft suite, you have Excel, you have Outlook, you have PowerPoint, you have all these tools already there. Why are you going to go out and buy more? Because it's fancy, because it's shiny, because you think it's the next big thing? Don't do it.
If someone wrote a book on your life, what would the title be?
Well, if they wrote it, I mean, it's probably going to be something cheesy, having to do with Excel. I don't know, the life and times of a sheet freak. But for me, I think that the keynote that I'm really excited to give next is actually more in line with my personal journey, my hero's journey, and that is built in the dark.
Built in the dark. New entrepreneurs. What's a little advice that you would give someone just starting off in business?
Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait until you have all the numbers. And I'm saying this because I struggled with this. I want to have everything built. I want to have everything perfect. I want to have everything in place. And a lot of the work that I do, ironically, is companies don't have every single piece of data. They don't have perfectly clean data. And so they ask me, can we still come up with a good system, a good tool, a good forecast, a good approach if we don't have all the perfect data? Absolutely. Because here's the thing. You could have all the perfect data in the world. You can have everything perfect. You can have everything dialed in. You can have all your systems ready to go. And guess what? Life is going to throw a curveball. Life's going to come and just punch you in the mouth, personally and in business. And so what your job is not to be right. Your job is to create systems that will continuously get you moving in the direction that you want to go. So what's the direction you want to go? Find those systems and just continue doing it. It doesn't matter if you get it right exactly. If you project, I want to land 10 clients next month. Okay, you land 7. You were wrong. Technically, you said 10. You got 7. Are you mad about that? If you get 12, you're still wrong. You said 10. You got 12. You're wrong. Are you mad about that? Life is not about being precise and accurate and correct. It's about figuring out what matters and moving in that direction every single day.
Absolutely. So where can people find you?
So my website, stark-analytics.com. That's the easiest place. On Instagram, I am christiantorres.systems. Because apparently, there's another Christian Torres out there. But christiantorres.systems. And honestly, you could probably just Google Christian Torres, Excel. And I'm probably going to be the first thing that pops up.
Absolutely. Anything you want to leave with the people before we exit?
Honestly, I've been on this journey for, like I said, 15 years now. And I'm only now getting really, really comfortable talking about my why, talking about my hero's journey. And I look back and I connect all the dots and I realize, wow, this is, I live in systems and forecasting, and I could have never predicted this, which itself is evidence enough that I could never have built a system that would have told me where I'm going to be today. I can't build a system that's going to tell you exactly where I'm going to be 5 years from now, but I can tell you the direction I'm going.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And this has been another episode of the Detroit Entrepreneur Podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.